All right, looks like we have about 17 folks in the room.
Fantastic. Well, good afternoon, folks. Thank you for joining us. If you're not here for the New Mexico Outdoor Recreation Division info session on the Trail Plus grant, you should log off now because that's where you are. My name's Carl Colonius. I'm the program manager for the Outdoor Recreation Division. Also on our call today, we have Michelle Simmons, who is our marketing coordinator, and Evan Pilling, who is our grants coordinator. So you got 3 out of 4 of the Outdoor Recreation Division on the call today. And just a couple of housekeeping bits and pieces. Please, let's keep your microphones off. We will have an opportunity for some Q&A. You can also drop any questions into the chat, and we'll bring those up. Hey, Kevin's transcribing this call. Fancy, Kevin. And if you could please keep questions general related to the application process. If you have specific project questions, feel free to log into our website, which is nmoutside.com, and you can schedule an appointment with me or with any of us, actually, using the book an appointment function. And if you've ever gotten an email from me, it's the last line on my signature to book an appointment. We'll also have that link at the end of the presentation for folks. All right, so here's the team. Our director, Karina Armijo, double booked this afternoon, will not be joining us. As I mentioned, I'm the program manager for the Outdoor Recreation Division. You can see Michelle and Evan on the call. Michelle is our marketing coordinator, manages our social media, our press releases, our fantastic newsletter. And Evan is the grant program officer for the Outdoor Equity Fund. And we'll talk a little bit about that just to give folks a sense of how our programs operate. So the mission of the Outdoor Recreation Division to increase equitable access to the outdoors for all New Mexicans, ensuring healthy outcomes, environmental stewardship, and economic prosperity. We really look at our work as creating outdoor recreation ecosystems in communities. Today, we're talking about the Trail Plus grant. That is the infrastructure funding stream that we coordinate. But Evan's program, the Outdoor Equity Fund, is about making sure that who is recreating represents the diversity that we're so lucky to have in New Mexico. So we target underrepresented and uninvited population groups in order to participate in the healthy, valuable outdoor activities. So just a sense of the scale of outdoor recreation programming across the country. There's 24 states that have created offices of outdoor recreation in one form or another. Some of those offices are more robust than others. We're a relatively lean shop, but there are some shops. Utah, for example, has 50 plus staff. It encompasses all of their state parks and other operations. The cool thing about the outdoor recreation industry is it has a significant economic impact. 3.2 billion in New Mexico's GDP, almost 2.4%. It employs north of 30,000 New Mexicans in the industry, with a total income of 1.5 billion. So it's nothing to be sneezed at, just as far as our scale and part of the economic impact of our programming. But beyond the economic impact, there's also benefits to outdoor recreation, and we want to help folks understand why we do this work. The health benefits, both physical and mental health, is improved. Mental health, spending time in the natural world, facilitated by trails, legal access points, will Spending that time reduces stress, improves your mood, decreases symptoms of depression and anxiety. There's the obvious physical health improvements, cardiovascular, reducing chronic diseases. An active, vital lifestyle is a healthier lifestyle. There's also the benefit of community development. Trails build community and foster positive social interactions and a sense of place. The environmental benefits of outdoor recreation is often overlooked. The idea that if we didn't design and plan sustainable trail systems, we would have what are called social trails or pirate trails. Those aren't always sustainably or well designed, causing erosion, impacting watersheds negatively. So we really want to make sure that we recognize that a well-designed trail system is a strong conservation strategy. And, you know, if we get people out of their vehicles because we have safe and protected walking and biking infrastructure, that improves the air and water quality for all of us. And we talked a little bit about the economic benefits. Those are relatively easy to recognize. There was a recent study done by the International Mountain Bike Association and the Trust for Public Lands that determines mountain biking tourists spend an average of $416 per trip, per vacation, which is a pretty significant spend down. So you can just get a guess of, you know, kind of how that positive economic impact hits communities if they are interested in designing a system that draws visitors to their community. So we're talking today about the Trail Plus grant. We have projects in over 30 New Mexico counties. We work with 11 of the 23 tribes or tribal nations in New Mexico. We've put over $33 million through over 244 projects that have created 2,367 jobs. So we know that we're having a positive impact. We can measure how our programming is affecting communities. And just to talk about how you would utilize a Trail Plus grant, our funding can invest in planning, engineering, survey work. We can help complete the NEPA process if your project is associated on federal lands. It can complete construction. It will provide maintenance. And it's Trails Plus. So it's not just trails, trailheads, trail signage. It also includes infrastructure that helps communities engage in the outdoors. And you see a group shelter there on the right-hand side of that photo. That's a project we funded over in Cimarron as a mechanism for that community to help encourage their population to go outside for celebrations, graduations, etc. So this next round, the round that closes January 31st, we're targeting about 1.7 million in distribution. We've already put about 5 million, well, a little more than 5 million out this fiscal year. So we're targeting a total distribution this fiscal year of just over 7 million. We receive our funds entirely from the state budget. The state legislature provided us a special appropriations, and the Trail Plus grant program also benefits from alignment with the Land of Enchantment Legacy Fund. So we get a percentage distribution of that permanent conservation fund that the state kicked into gear a couple years ago. So it is a kind of a permanent function of the state now to provide the Trail Plus grant. So there are 3 tiers to the Trail Plus grant. Tier 1, thinking about this as local projects, $25,000 up to $99,999. A local project would be a local unit of government, a town, a village, a city, a county. They've got a park. They want to put a trail around the perimeter. That's going to include signage. It's going to have some benches. It's going to have some bike racks. It's going to be a total cost of $75,000. So they would ask us for $50,000 and they would pony up $25,000. There is a 2-to-1 match requirement for rural and tribal communities and a 1-to-1 match for the urban areas in the state. The match is very broad. Could be federal grants, could be other state funding, could be private foundation dollars, could be general funds from that local community. It could also be sweat equity. Volunteer labor would be counted at the federal volunteer rate of $33.61, something like that. Pretty easy to look up. Donated supplies and materials. If Bernalillo County has a public works yard with huge, crusher fines or base course, any of that material that's committed to a project has a cash value that is also eligible to be counted as your match. Looking at the tier 2 and tier 3, tier 2, that's $100,000 to $499,999. This would be something that would be obviously a larger scale, but also would include collaborations. We like to see multiple entities represented in our tier 2 and tier 3 grants. That is, kind of identified in your narrative, explaining roles and responsibilities, reinforced in your budget where we can see that multiple entities are included in the budget for specific line items, and then reinforced through a memorandum of agreement or a memorandum of understanding, a letter of commitment, something that, a group being voluntold for something actually has a commitment that reinforces that role that they're playing in the implementation of the project. The tier 3 grants, $500,000 up to $1 million. These are, we might do one of these a year. These would be the, kind of the platinum level project, high visibility, high name recognition, significant scale, of course, that same collaboration with multiple entities engaged in the project. This would be something like the rail trail in Albuquerque. And I'll show some examples of our tier 3 proposals a little later in the presentation. Again, all of our grants have a match requirement, and that's 2-to-1 for rural and tribal communities and 1-to-1 for our urban communities. Just, kind of a brief sketch of how to think about the development of a Trail Plus project, moving from a vision all the way through to post-build stewardship. We do provide consulting and we engage in conversations about your projects. Happy to give that kind of sounding board. We do want to ask folks to think about who your project's for, what your intended outcome is, as in, are you looking to improve the quality of life for your community by designing a safe route to school, getting kids from where they live to their school? Or is it a community that's interested in attracting outsiders, visitors, tourists to your community? Your design, your concept is going to change based upon who your project is for. And we'll help walk through that thinking process with you if needed. For the design and planning, moving from, kind of a vision into a conceptual master plan into actual design development, we can fund this all the way from incorporating engineering work into a project, if that is something that your project would necessitate. We do really encourage engagement with folks that are professional trail builders. You would never assume to build a house with an unlicensed contractor. And very similar concept with trails. There is more to know about the layout, design, and construction of trail systems than meets the eye. And we do encourage folks to engage in a relationship with an entity that has some experience. We also have a list of contractors that we're happy to share with folks, both on the engineering side as well as the construction side. And when we are talking about the implementation or construction of the project, again, be intentional on who is going to build that project. It can create a maintenance nightmare if your layout and construction is not well thought out or sustainably done. And there's a variety of folks that you can partner with, everywhere from volunteer groups like a local Kiwanis or Rotary Club to the Volunteers for Outdoor New Mexico, ramping it up a little bit. You can go into the Youth Corps YCC world, folks that are learning skills through the completion of projects, all the way up into a professional trail crew or organization that in the private sector. So be thinking about the complexity of your project and who the appropriate contractor would be. And again, I do maintain a list of folks in this world, both in New Mexico as well as in our neighboring states. Happy to share that with folks. I don't want to neglect the last phase of the project lifespan, however, the post-build stewardship. Maintenance is part of this world. Everything that we are working on is going to need a maintenance strategy. And we recognize that oftentimes that can be a hindrance to someone applying for funding because that ongoing responsibility is outside of their capacity. We do have a strategy for a low to no cost trail stewardship plan. Includes getting some public land management agency or a local expert in order to provide a trail master training on an annual basis for your community volunteers. You can host trail events, providing hands-on training during those events. And then, as those events take place, you're in, you're out. You're providing your trail master training, teaching folks the ins and outs of trail maintenance. You can see organizations and entities that are committed and consistent and their skill set is developing. Moving that group into an adopt a trail role is something that we have seen some great success in regards to that three-step process. Again, that's a trail master training on an annual basis, giving people a heads up on what they need to know, hosting trail events, providing a barbecue at the end of the day in order to motivate your volunteers, and then from that, starting to select and identify folks that could be adopt a trail folks. So that is, kind of one of the ways to go about it. But it is something that we ask for in the proposal. What is your project stewardship strategy? How are you going to take care of it? It's something to pay attention to. Getting into a little bit of the how-tos of accessing the grant application portal. Our website, again, is nmoutside.com. And on that website, you will see our grants tab. On that grants tab, pull down that menu and you can find Trail Plus. Open up the Trail Plus page and you'll see those bullets or the circled items on the left-hand side of the page. The application portal is there. That will take you to an external site named Submittable. We do use the Submittable platform to host both our application as well as ongoing communication. So don't be surprised if you leave our site and get introduced into Submittable. And then the bottom circle on that website is our grant guide. We spend a good amount of time each year making sure that that is updated and current. And you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't at least scan that document before getting into your grant proposal development. It's got a bunch of fantastic information about what we do fund, what we don't fund, and you'll really benefit from looking that over. That's also available for the Outdoor Equity Fund. That grant guide is updated and maintained every year with some minute changes. On the right-hand side of the screen, on the website, we also have an idea of where we have funded. Both the Outdoor Equity and the Trail Plus grants are represented there. You can see the breakdown of where we have dispersed funding. Each of those pins is also hot, so you can pull up a brief description of who, what, where, why, when, to get an idea of what type of programming is funded. And you can sort that by our grant type, by geography, etc. So lots of good information on the website. Please take advantage of it. So getting in a little bit to the grant guide. In each year's grant guide, we identify what's new. So what's new for fiscal year 26. Not a whole lot significantly new this year. We are upping the ante, increasing the attention on the collaborations in Tier 2 and Tier 3. A change that was made last year. Nonprofits are now eligible for the Tier 2 grants, the middle level up to $500,000. We had some of the larger nonprofits in the state robustly advocate for that, and we agree that it's a functional change. So again, this is in the grant guide. Please take a chance to look through this. You'll also find what we fund and what we don't fund. And I think it's probably easier in this context to talk about what we don't fund. We don't do water parks. We don't fund team sport facilities such as tennis and pickleball courts, baseball diamonds, soccer fields. You're better focused on securing capital outlay for that type of programming. And the rationale is that if we funded that type of team sports facility, those projects would eat up our budget relatively quickly. And we really wanted to fund projects outside of what capital outlay is already funding. We don't fund buildings, and we don't provide funding for land acquisition. We can fund easement development, which is different from land acquisition, but don't think that you're going to use our grants to buy that additional 6 acres to build your pump track on. There's also in the grant guide a section of frequently asked questions. We really try to reinforce what makes a strong application. We put an emphasis on the recreational value of the project, that it creates equitable access. Maybe it's a trailhead or bringing a trail into a community that would have normally had to drive in order to access that trail system. So equitable access is significantly important for us. We also want to make sure that the projects are environmentally and culturally appropriate. We do pay for the NEPA process, which helps to clear that up. But if you're working on non-federal land, you wouldn't be required to go through the NEPA process. But we do filter our grants to make sure that they are culturally and environmentally responsible. We also want to measure the economic development impact. You'll notice that's not the first thing I referred to. It is a value that we look at, but it's not a driving value. Even though we're a division of the Economic Development Department, we also look at community livability, quality of life, an active, vibrant population. Those are also the values that our programs are guided by. We want to make sure your project has demonstrable community support. There's no such thing as too many letters of support, but they should be real, they should be valid, they should have a strong connection to the project. And as I mentioned earlier, a letter of support is very different from a memorandum of agreement. We want to make sure that letters of support are not interpreted as, oh, we've got a great collaboration. We look at all of our letters of support. That's a little bit different relationship. We do want to encourage the collaborations to qualify for tier 2, tier 3, and just having a dozen letters of support isn't necessarily an indication that you do have a collaborative project. And speaking of collaboration, on the proposal process, we do have an opportunity for collaboration application sharing. So you can have multiple folks signed in, participating in the drafting of your application. So there's a good opportunity for some efficiency there without sending those confusing emails back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Some final application tips. Again, our website is just full of data. Looking at what type of programming we've funded in the past is a great indicator. As you prepare your application, think about saving your responses in a Word doc, doing a character or word count before you start to paste it into one of the fields in the application. We do have character and word limits on some of the responses that we look for. And please pay attention to budget formatting. Use the template that we provided in the application portal. It makes it much easier for our review team to do a side-by-side comparison if the budgets are in very similar format. We do think that any one of our projects can fit onto a one-page budget. Line items on the left, a column for the grant, a column for the match. Pretty straightforward, but it is important that we get that level of detail so that we can really evaluate your application. And also, please don't miss that we require a bid or quote for any subcontracts over $20,000. This is both to guide your hand to make sure that you're on target with those estimates. It also helps prime the pump. Should you be awarded the funds, you've got a relationship. You've started a conversation with a concrete contractor or someone who's going to, kind of be able to compact your parking lot, etc. So again, any subcontract, kind of in the budget for your grant request, we'd like to get a written bid. Not so much that they need to be under contract, but just to make sure that you're in the ballpark and that you've got a conversation going with one of the folks who's actually going to do the work. Another sticky point for us is to fully and completely and accurately fill out your W-9 form. This is how we get you into the system. We do ask that you use the state version. And number 4, please put grantee in on that. We'll remind you again when you get down to it, but that is how the Department of Finance Administration likes to see it, so that's how we do it. It is eligible to submit the federal W-9 form as well, but all of our instructions are on the state form. Pretty easy to follow. It's pretty comprehensive. We want to make sure that you get your grant relatively quickly. Help us help you by filling out your W-9. And lastly, on the application portal, make sure you check the box. Yes, I want to receive email notifications. We do communicate with all of our grantees through Submittable. And if you don't check this box, you're not going to see any of our messages. And it takes us a little while to unwind that. So please pay attention to the personal settings as you are completing your grant. We do not have access to your submittal of account, so we can't do that for you. But just a hint. All right, so one of the last pieces on kind of the how-to. We have some reporting requirements, relatively straightforward. The Trail Plus grant is on a 24-month cycle. So about halfway through, or at 12 months, we ask for a progress report. That report is accessed through the Submittable portal. And at the end of the project, there is also a final report link. Both of those are required. Both of those include financial reporting. It is an opportunity for us to keep tabs on your project. We also provide a site visit during the lifespan of your grant, but getting information through the reports kind of keeps us up to speed on whether you're on target, whether you're on time, if you need any assistance. That's a great way to communicate with us as far as that goes. We also really want to encourage folks to help us by linking to our social media. We have some hashtags. We provide some guidance on that. We're a relatively fresh grant opportunity, so by posting updates on your project and including our hashtags helps us get the word out and helps expand awareness of the grant opportunities. We also ask your permission to utilize your photo and videos in our own promotional actions. So it's yeah, I think that's it on the reporting requirements. So getting a little bit into some of the projects that we funded in the past. On the left, you've got the Backcountry Horseman in the Gila. You can see the before and after shots. Backcountry Horseman has done some tremendous work in the Gila Wilderness and the backcountry, working on trails that have seen less tender loving care than they deserve. So it's a great opportunity to fund an organization that has that access and can get into wilder parts of the state in order to create some trail maintenance. The middle shot, Taos Main Street, asked for some assistance in a marketing plan around the town of Taos, historic signage, directional signage, helping folks find their way around the historic district in the town of Taos. And on the right is a ribbon cutting of an ADA trail that Los Alamos County built adjacent to their athletic facility. You can see the wheelchair front and center, beautiful, adaptive and ADA access trail right downtown in Los Alamos that was completed this last year. Really great project there. Some of our Tier 2 projects, a little larger scale, we provided some funding to the National Forest Foundation. That particular proposal is focused on post-fire trail rehab. National Forest Foundation regrants our resources to organizations and entities around the state, helping to target specific post-fire trails that were impacted by wildfires. This is happening in the Gila, the Santa Fe, and the Carson National Forest. Really fantastic stretch of our resources by getting the National Forest Foundation to match our grant. The middle photo, the town of Red River, in partnership with the Carson National Forest, constructed some bathrooms. This is on city land co-located to the National Forest. A great amenity to put a fresh new bathroom facility right next to a trailhead. Really a wonderful job by the town of Red River there. And then the last photo on the right, the Spirit of Hidalgo, community organizing group, nonprofit down in Lordsburg in Hidalgo County. What you see there is the footers for an expansion of a horse stall system in the county park. So Hidalgo County is the beneficiary of the Spirit of Hidalgo's work. It allows them to host larger events. Really a fantastic project, a great collaboration between the Spirit of Hidalgo and Hidalgo County. It also has an economic benefit as the equestrian stalls will be able to be utilized by folks off of I-10 that are traveling through Lordsburg. If it's the end of the day, but you're trailering your horses, Hidalgo County rodeo grounds now has the opportunity for you to put your horses up in a safe and clean spot. So very cool project right there. Some of our larger projects on the left, Surfs Up in New Mexico. This is a project done in collaboration with the city of Farmington and the agricultural community in San Juan County, as well as some fish habitat advocates. It started off as a conversation about how to create efficiencies in the agricultural diversion, getting the Animas River onto fields for flood irrigation. That then, had to really look at, well, the current practice is to push a bunch of dirt and gravel into the Animas River in order to raise the water up to the takeout. That's not great for fish habitat. So let's think about maybe we should build a constructed dam that would create efficiencies for the water diversion. And while we're at it, let's add a fish ladder so we'll improve fish habitat at the same time. And boy, look at that, kind of surf wave right in the front. That's the last piece of this particular project's positive impact. There's some Obermeyer-Weir air bladder controlled gates that sense the cubic feet per second in the river and keep enough water in the fish ladder and enough water in the surf wave in order to have both of those elements function. Pretty cool. It did get blown out with our August-September floods. The deluge that hit Pagosa Springs cascaded down to the Animas down in San Juan County. And we got to wait for the river level to drop before we could dredge that out and reestablish the contours of that wave. But yeah, super cool. First mechanized surf wave in New Mexico, as far as we know. The middle project, partnership with Pickery's Pueblo, really fantastic all-wheels park. The Pickery's Pueblo post-COVID was intent upon providing healthy activities for their young people, and they went all out. The all-wheels park includes a full-size basketball court, a trampoline court, a swimming pool with a climbing wall coming out of the pool. There is a skate park, there's a pump track, and there's this, the element that we funded, a jump line for mountain biking. So it goes from beginner to advanced to, oh my God, are they crazy? Pickery's Pueblo really went for it as far as an opportunity for their young people to test limits. Fantastic project, and open to the public for a $10 donation to the Pickery's Boys and Girls Club. Really fantastic, generous opportunity for folks to head down to Pickery's Pueblo, right outside of Taos County. The last project, City of Carlsbad, in collaboration with the Army Corps of Engineers. Again, multiple positive impacts of this project. The Pecos River, as it rolls through Carlsbad, was slowing down, was heating up. There were algae blooms, they had invasive species. So there was an invasive species eradication, some river flow contouring, and then additional public access. You can see the brown line here. This is actually a floating walkway that also acts as fishing, as well as stand-up paddleboard and kayak launching and docking. You'll note that the floating walkway goes underneath the highway. You can now access the southern part of the reservoir without crossing traffic, which is an incredible improvement on safety, especially if your kids are at the lake fishing or having a good time. So really exciting project in partnership with the City of Carlsbad in the Tamsel Dam renovation. Another common element of the Trail Plus is signage. So just a minute on the topic of trail signage. What you're seeing here are three different families of trail signage. Trailhead signage, where you've got comprehensive information that includes allowable users, the distance of routes, the difficulty of the trail. It's got information on leave no trace. It's got trail etiquette messaging about slow and say hello. It identifies agency partners, trail stewards, the adopted trail piece. This particular project was funded by a Trail Plus grant for the Enchanted Circle Trail Association. And that trailhead signage is not actually at a trailhead. There are half a dozen of these trail signs, these kiosks, throughout the Enchanted Circle region in public spaces to help raise awareness of where the trails are. And each of the specific kiosks pulls out and highlights 3 trails that are very close to the location of that kiosk. So helps to build awareness, helps to brand Taos County's fantastic trail system. Really cool concept there by the Enchanted Circle Trail Association. The middle sign, the wayfinding sign, we encourage folks to provide signage on trails so you know where you are on a trail system. A lot of folks use trails for adventure, but that doesn't necessarily need to include being lost. So we use a best practice recommended of numbering intersections so that maybe a refined or simplified full trail system is at the intersection, but the intersection is numbered so you can identify where you are, where you came from, where you want to go. It's also really beneficial wayfinding signage if you are unfortunately hurt and need help. Search and rescue can use those intersection numbers very effectively and get to you a lot sooner. The last component there, the interpretive signage. How do we make our trail systems more interesting, a richer experience, helping educate or creating a narrative, generating a positive user experience? Think about that as a part of your trail system signage. And we do have a sign guide that is moving towards final version. I am happy to disperse a draft form if folks have questions, but it goes through in pretty good detail the do's and don'ts of trail signage. Another project just to mention as we start to wrap up the informational session, the Outdoor Recreation Division is also helping to steward the development of the Rio Grande Trail. The Rio Grande Trail was identified by the state legislature as a state priority project. They put some resources into the development of a conceptual master plan. They provide some funds to the Outdoor Recreation Division to help refine that conceptual trail plan. We contract with a landscape architecture and community organizing shop called Planned Collaborative. They help to refine the alignment, work with communities in order to confirm where the Rio Grande Trail will go. There is also a website that you can tap into, riograndetrailnm.org. You can see, kind of where we are in specific communities, where the project is developing. There's also, out of the Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resource Department, the Rio Grande Trail Commission that is operating on a state basis. We're kind of the worker bees on the project, and they take the work that we produce, designating and nominating segments for adoption into the Rio Grande Trail, and we're working to get that trail on the ground. I'm super excited about this project and a long distance trail in New Mexico. Some other funding sources beyond the Trail Plus. Oftentimes, if a project is of scale, you're blending or merging a variety of different funding sources. Of course, there's New Mexico Clean and Beautiful. The New Mexico Department of Transportation has a number of different active transportation funding streams. There is the Rec Trail Program. There's the Transportation Alternative Project. There's the CMAC, which is an effort to get folks out of their cars, roadside enhancements and bike lanes. All of that is accessible through the New Mexico Department of Transportation. The Department of Tourism also has the Destination Forward grant program, couple $1 million a year, very similar in mission to the Trail Plus, and oftentimes those grants are used in conjunction, phase one, phase two of a larger grant. And that again is called the Destination Forward Grant. And then DFA, the Department of Finance Administration, this last year has stood up the Infrastructure Planning and Development Division. They provide consultation as well as manage the capital outlay process for the state. And one of the benefits of engaging with the Infrastructure Planning and Development Division, if you've got a really large project with a multitude of funding streams and you just can't kind of wrap your head around the management, the Infrastructure Planning and Development Division has the capacity to help you manage those grants and essentially be your in-house project management component, which is really, really freaking cool. Also, while we're on this page, mention that the Department of Transportation is producing an active transportation plan. This helps to prioritize which New Mexico state highways and New Mexico roads receive roadside enhancements, bike lanes, and pedestrian infrastructure. I think that link is dropped into the chat. Please engage in that. This is actually the first time New Mexico Department of Transportation has completed an active transportation plan. Super valuable data set, and helps you and your community weigh in on where you think they can focus their resources. So please engage in that. The other piece that I'll mention on this slide is that the state is about to embark on the development of our comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. This is called the SCORP. It's done once every 5 or 10 years. It's a required element for New Mexico to be eligible to receive land and water conservation funds. So it also helps communities really link to what they think is important regarding the state strategic plan. So keep your ears open. I don't think we have a link quite yet. The Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resource Department is just initiating the development of the SCORP, but really, really valuable opportunity to have your voice heard. So that kind of wraps up the presentation. I am happy to meet with folks one-on-one. You'll see that QR code is a link to setting up a meeting with me in 15 or 30-minute blocks. So take advantage of that. You can also find that on our website and on any of the emails that I send, or Evan, or Michelle, or Karina. The link to book a meeting with us is the last line in our signature. All right, I am ready for questions. Anybody? Bueller? So you can raise a hand or drop it into the chat.
Hey, just going to unmute myself. We've got somebody asking about signing up for the newsletter. So if you go to that contact page, that form that's on that page is the actual sign up. You would just click on the Outdoor Recreation Division newsletter only button at the bottom where it says email lists, and then that sign up button at the very bottom with the blue bar. That should take you there.
So, Michelle, why would anyone on this call want to sign up for another newsletter? Isn't that just like submitting yourself to junk email?
It's the best. I might be biased. We put it out every 2 weeks. I work really hard to advertise volunteer opportunities. We also have a page on our website. So if you have an organization that is recruiting volunteers, you can email me and I can add that to that list. We share careers, we share events, news that's happening from across the state, and it's full of really good stuff. And we also encourage our grant recipients and folks to share their information with us so I can add that to our newsletter.
Isn't it
Um,
true that we have the highest opening rate of any state division as far as our newsletter? Is that just a rumor? Or am I wrong?
we'll call it fact. I actually don't know the truth of that,
Ah,
but we have
no,
I think we get around a 40% open rate, which is pretty high for any newsletter
there we go.
if
There we
y'all
go.
deal
And
with
I just saw a
newsletters.
shout out for it. So yeah, it's a fantastic
Aw.
resource. It's got all sorts of information, and it's like sitting through this webinar without my voice. It's fantastic.
We did have a question here in the chat. It was, let's see, there's a couple questions. First one was about the capacity, financial capacity. Okay, so this person is asking, I read that there's a requirement that an organization's operating budget be 5 times the grant request.
Hmm.
Is it really an annual operating budget requirement, or can the requirement be fulfilled if the organization has 5 times in operating reserves?
A reserve question. Yeah. So the idea is really that you're not biting off more than you can chew. If you're a parent teacher association with $412 in the bank, please don't ask for $475,000 to build a trail around the high school. Um, we want to make sure that our grantees are successful. And so we try to scale the grants to what we assess as the capacity of an entity. There's a couple of ways to talk about organizational capacity. That would be through your annual operating budget. It would be through your staff pattern. And really, when we're talking about capacity, it's a judgment call to a certain degree. And yes, the question is correct. We do look at the scale of your organization compared to the scale of your request. It's not a hard and fast rule, but it is a litmus test that we use.
Thanks, Carl. We've got
Yeah.
another question. Somebody just looking to clarify the kind of guidance that we are able to offer on the grant, or on the applications. Somebody's wondering about short check-in calls, email
Yeah.
questions. I
Yes, and
think,
yes.
yep, we kind of answered that, but the Trails Plus one-on-ones with Carl is a great way to go into depth about any sort of details pertaining to your project. And emails
Yeah.
are fine too. But a
Yeah.
scheduled one-on-one if you really want to deep dive into some things and connect with Carl.
Yeah, and I get a ton of emails, and for anyone on this call that is waiting for a response from me, I'm sorry. Um, and using the book a meeting is really pretty functional, pretty easy, 15, 30 minutes. Um, and the cool thing is you don't know what you don't know. And we have the benefit of seeing all these different communities throughout New Mexico, throughout the country, throughout the world, and we can tap into that data set, that experience, and help guide your proposal. Maybe kind of adding things that you didn't even know was a thing. A bike repair station, super cool idea. If you're building a bike park for road cycling and you don't have one of those permanently installed repair stations, yeah, super cool amenity. You can put air in your tires. You can tighten your derailleur. You can make kind of small adjustments on your bike, and kind of there's not a lot of those in New Mexico yet.
See what else we got going on here. Someone is working to acquire some land that would make a great location for trailhead
Mm-hmm.
into a mountain near my community. There's been some trash dumping in the area. Could funding be used to help with the initial cleanup of the land before the build out of the trailhead and trail?
Yeah, so it would be a stronger application if it included the cleanup and then scraping for your parking lot. So just a trash pickup would not score very well in the competitive nature of the Trail Plus grant. But if it's trash pickup and the rental of a backhoe in order to clear off the sagebrush and prepare for base course and compaction, you're moving in the right direction in that sense. So again, think about the recreational value, and yes, we can make the connection. I think what is it the transitive property that if A equals B, B equals C, then A equals C. Well, trash pickup helps the development of the parking lot, but the parking lot is what you need in order for recreation to happen. That doesn't mean that trash pickup is a fundable action within the Trail Plus grant. That makes sense? It's been a long day.
Yeah, good explanation.
Nice. I think that is a transitive property too.
Let's see, somebody else is asking, assuming that as a nonprofit, official friends groups for the national parks would be eligible for funds, even
Mm-hmm.
if we were using said funds and projects on federal lands within the parks.
We encourage that sort of partnership. Thank you for the opportunity to remind folks who eligible applicants are. Local units of government, nonprofits, land grants, ASAKI associations, land and water conservation districts, not federal land management agencies, and not other state agencies. Oh, and not private corporations. So public dollars in public hands, and a friends group partnering with a national park or a state park or a Forest Service district eligible applicant. I can point to a number of projects that we have funded into a nonprofit, and the work is actually taking place on federal land.
Awesome. If anyone else has questions, feel free to either raise your hand. Oh, we got one. Uh, Possibly better discussed in person, voice to voice, but I'd be curious to whether applicants have better odds of funding if the grant is singularly focused, such as trail building, or can an application include multiple project components like trail building plus a low water composting restroom facility for an existing trail project with good prospects for funding?
Yeah, so we're not afraid of complex projects. We're also not afraid of suggesting to phase your projects. Think about the progression of elements. But yeah, that concept of doing some trail restoration work and the installation of a bathroom in a singular proposal, that sounds like a very strong proposal. I would caution you to try to stay within the tier. If you have multiple entities involved in that and qualify for tier two, tier three, go for it. But you should gauge what you include in your proposal to stay within the funding limits of the stage or the tier that you qualify for. So don't pack so much more in that you take yourself out of eligibility. You're
Awesome.
welcome,
All right.
Ted.
And we got somebody else just wondering if they haven't closed out a previous Trails Plus grant, if they can apply. And when is the application due for this one? It is January 31st.
Mm-hmm.
Carl, you want to go into details about when folks can apply?
Sure. This was also a fiscal year 25 rule change. You do not need to fully complete your Trail Plus grant in order to be eligible to apply for an additional Trail Plus grant. You are eligible to apply in consecutive fiscal years. But here we go back to talking about capacity. Make sure you've got the organizational or agency capacity to implement a second grant. We're also going to look to make sure that you are proceeding and have completed adequate progress on your current grant. If you're flailing on implementation of your first Trail Plus grant, maybe not ask for a second one. We are also strongly encouraging folks. You got a Trail Plus grant last fiscal year and you're thinking of applying for another one. Make sure your progress report or even your final report, if you're done with your project, is submitted so we can gauge whether or not you've made progress. That is something that we do look at. I just had a thought and it flew away. Oh well.
Let it fly.
Yeah, there it goes.
Let's see. I think that's all the questions. Let me just double check that the Q&A section doesn't have any. Nope, that's a ghost town.
Excellent. Well, thank
Awesome.
you very much, folks, for spending your Wednesday evening. Tried to make it short and sweet and packed chock full of information. Again, please feel free to reach out if you've got specific questions. You can either send those in an email or sign up for a quick chat. Happy to help guide you towards submitting a more competitive, successful proposal.
Awesome. Thank you guys.